Hello, everyone. My name is Gadde. I am an assistant professor at Emory University School of Medicine. Today I will be talking to you about teaching via social media. This was a presentation that I gave earlier this year at the AUR meeting. I have no disclosures. So the objectives for this talk will be to illustrate how to effectively utilize social media for teaching purposes, and in particular, we will be spending most of the time on Twitter, and then I will also briefly review some other social media options. So what does Twitter mean for the rest of the world? It may mean a source of information about politics, such as following Donald Trump. It may mean a source of information about the recent news, such as following the Wall Street Journal or your favorite news sites, such as CNN, BBC, Fox News, etc. Or for the rest of the world, it may mean a source of getting the most recent up-to-date information about your favorite celebrities, such as you can see here, the Kardashians who are on Jimmy Kimmel Live. But what does Twitter mean for me? It means a source of medical education. Here you can see an example, which we'll show again later, from the American Society of Head and Neck Radiology, where they demonstrated an unknown case, and then we'll post the answer approximately 24 hours later. This is the reason that I started a Twitter account, was to start another source of medical education and to get a broader reach. Also, using Twitter for medical education can mean retweeting other people's information and posts that can be helpful. Here was an example of someone retweeting Dr. Stefan Tigges' 22 don't miss lesions, which he put into comic format. And then this is what a typical post on Twitter looks like for me. You can see here, this was my case number 57. I will post an unknown case and then brief patient information and then some pertinent images and questions. Again, here is that post more blown up for you to see. And if you look, these are actually JPEGs, which were saved from PowerPoint slides, so these can easily be created in PowerPoint and then saved as JPEGs and uploaded as photos to your Twitter post. And here what I typically do, will post the case number, again, typically posting once per week, some brief patient information, some pertinent images, usually enough to only fit on one slide, so anywhere from 1 to, say, 4 images. And then the next image or JPEG will be some pertinent questions to the case. I've also enjoyed using the poll option on Twitter, which basically turns your question into multiple choice format where you can allow your followers to respond. You can choose how long you want the poll to stay open, and I do 48 hours since I will post my answers 48 hours after my initial question post. And at the end of those 48 hours, everyone can go back and see which question options were chosen to what percentage and see if they got the answer right. And then when I do post the answer 48 hours later, I will put the answers to the questions from the previous post, and then typically we'll have one slide demonstrating just the pertinent information that one should remember about the entity or diagnosis. Some other examples of awesome radiology medical educators. One would be Dr. Nick Kuntz from Indiana University. He's really one of the first people I saw posting unknown cases. And you can see here back in March, he was already at 167 cases. He has a similar format, but he will post his answer again about 24 hours later. And as you can see on the right, he often will also include recommended further reading or some articles that one can go to for more information, since the Twitter post only allows you to post so much. Here's another example from Dr. Ryan Peterson, also here from Emory. He's actually who I tried to emulate when I thought about posting my pediatric neuroradiology cases, and you can see we follow a similar format. He, again, will post his answer about 24 hours later and then have some pertinent images and then some information about the entity with answers to the previous questions. As we showed in the first few slides, a lot of the radiology societies are also now getting into using Twitter for case-based questions. Again, here's that example from the American Society of Head and Neck Radiology, where they showed an unknown case of a patient with conductive hearing loss, and then approximately 24 hours later posted the answer and then some pertinent information. So what's in it for you? Why should you be interested in using Twitter or social media in general for medical education? It can be very helpful if you're going up for promotion and want to demonstrate what your impressions or engagements are. And you can do this on Twitter by using Twitter Analytics, which is included and free. You can see here what your top tweets are for whatever time period you're looking. It's usually based on a 28-day period. You can see how many impressions, which means approximately how many people who have come across your post in one format or another, and then how many engagements with your post, meaning how many people maybe clicked on it or retweeted or liked, and then your approximate engagement rate for that post. Again, Twitter Analytics will show you a 28-day period, and you can see here broken down by weeks, and you can even look at days. So if you're posting different cases every week, you can go back and see, well, maybe this type of case will get more views or more engagement, and the followers tend to like those type of cases more. And then again, over that 28-day summary, this is great to just follow generally what's happening with your profile. So you can see here your number of tweets for the 28 days, the impressions, your profile visits, how many mentions you've had, and also how many followers. As you can see here, thankfully, when I put this PowerPoint together, my numbers were all in the green, meaning everything was going in the right direction. So just some tips and tricks about how you can make this work for you. One important thing that I must stress if you're going to be posting cases would be to make sure that your cases are obviously HIPAA compliant, so no patient identifying information, and that even means no specific ages. Usually for adults, ages aren't as important, and you can use general entities or general areas of ages. So you can see for children, sometimes for children ages matter a little more, so then I might say neonate or toddler, teenager, young adult. Don't post any rare cases if you think that the case maybe is 1 in a million and maybe your patient or patient family could find it on social media or the internet. You wouldn't want that to happen. So again, I also do not post any recent cases for that reason. So in the past few weeks or a month or so, I might not post any of those cases. If you are going to use your institution's logo, I recommend getting permission ahead of time in order to use the logo. We've had people who have had problems with that in the past at other institutions. And you may have heard of or seen people using what are called GIFs, which are kind of like animations that you can reply with. A lot of these people who are posting now, including myself, we allow people to reply with GIFs so they can kind of give a hint to what they think the answer is, but just make sure that those are obviously professional and appropriate. You wouldn't want someone to post an inappropriate GIF on a case that could be you or a loved one. And then another thing that some people have run into problems with is posting scout radiographs from CTs. Just be careful with that because you're obviously able to see a larger view of the patient, and it could potentially be tracked back to the patient. This is actually from Dr. Nick Kuntz from Indiana. He had some problems with social media compliance and had to put in this caveat stating specifically that everything was HIPAA compliant. So again, just make sure you talk to your institution and ask them if they have any social media guidelines, and if they don't, maybe you can help them come up with some guidelines so that everyone knows what the rules are and how to play. Just some advanced tips and tricks if you are going to pursue using social media. One important thing is to know what your brand is and to stick with that. So Dr. Peterson and I, we have similar brands, but we just make sure that every time that we have a post, that our post is using the same PowerPoint template each time. You just want, if someone's going to see your post, they recognize, oh, that's Dr. Gadde or that's Dr. Peterson's post, and just want everything to stay the same. And in that same vein, consistency with postings. So try to post on the same day of the week if you are going to post weekly. So I tend to post my unknown case on Wednesday morning, and then 48 hours later on Friday morning, I post the answer. Another thing I recommend is to keep a list, which I do using an Excel spreadsheet, of the cases and diagnoses that you have posted before, just so you obviously do not repeat any of those, and you can see if there's an area of which you have a deficiency or you have too many similar cases. Another recommendation would be to engage your followers, so try to make it interactive. One of the options would be to use that poll option just to get everyone to want to interact with you. Another option would be if you try to engage people who are posting, say, those GIFs, then that might get more people to post and to interact with you. And then again, obviously, if a follower responds with a question, then it's to your advantage if you try to respond back with an answer. Even if you don't know what the answer is, try to respond back and help them get the answer. Another option that Dr. Peterson has followed is trying to engage all learners. So it may be surprising, but I've found out that a lot of millennials, which I feel like I can say because I'm technically a millennial, a lot of millennials do not have Twitter accounts. So either they can go to your direct URL to your Twitter without having to create an account, which I have found several of our residents and fellows have done, or if they don't want to even go that route and you just want to share the education opportunity with them, you can email out the case to, say, all of your medical students, all of your residents or fellows, or maybe even your colleagues who are faculty, and make sure that everyone is getting access to the same medical education. So just to quickly end with some other venues for teaching, so some other social media options. Not to toot my own horn, but this is just an example of how you can create a website to house all of your cases. So this was my own website that I decided to create just so I had a place where all of my Twitter cases could be. You can see here in the upper right-hand corner. And then I also have broken them down into sections, so brain, head and neck, and spine, just to make it easier to go through the cases, especially as my number of cases continues to grow. Here is an example from the American Society of Pediatric Neuroradiology using Instagram. So I would say not as many people in our world tend to be using Instagram for medical education, but you can see here that it is an option. And the way that they do this is they will, again, post a very brief patient history, then some pertinent images. And you can just do these all as separate photos, just like we do on Twitter, but with Instagram you can do more photos. Then they will post the diagnosis and some brief information or discussion about the diagnosis. Another option would be to create a Facebook page. Again, I would say probably not a lot of millennials are using Facebook for medical education, but if you need a place to have all of your information and announcements, this is a great idea. So again, you can see here from the American Society of Pediatric Neuroradiology, their profile or cover photo at the top is advertising their upcoming 2020 annual meeting, so that would be a good source to post that. And then also if you have any announcements, you can also post it on your Facebook page. And again, they also will post their unknown cases after they're done with them. They will post them on Facebook so that you have a place where everything can be in one source. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this talk on teaching via social media. I hope this was helpful to you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me via email or on Twitter. Thank you.